The Honorable Deputy Chief Minister, the Chief Secretary, the Development Commissioner, the many distinguished people assembled here. It's my very great privilege to welcome you to this conference that we've organized here jointly with many people here. And it's for me, this is a new day. We in JPAL start with the agenda of turning research into action, but a conference like this embodies that possibility. It brings us to the point where we are able, and this is the great excitement for us, to be able to engage with people who actually are in the position to make policies that affect millions and millions of people. The numbers you heard from Mr. Modi a little while ago, the scale of the ambition that we see in Bihar to transform itself, to end poverty in our lifetimes, is something that inspires all of us. And we're very grateful to be here with all of you at this, what for us is a first conference anywhere in the world of this kind. We're very privileged to be able to do this here in Patna, and I thank you for being here. Let me just, what I thought I would do, and I was asked to do by Iqbal, is to do a brief summary of what we're trying to do and give you a sense of what's the style of work that my colleagues are involved in, to give you a feel for if you thought that you wanted to actually work with us, what the kind of work that you could envisage doing. What we are, JPAL is the Abdul Latif Jameel Poverty Action Lab. We're a network of 44 professors spread across the world. We have 4 main centers, one in India in Chennai, one in Paris, one in Santiago in Chile, and one in Cambridge, Massachusetts at MIT. Between these 4 centers, we have right now 235 ongoing and completed projects, including 51 in India. India is actually our biggest country. These projects cover essentially every aspect of anti-poverty policy. There is water, sanitation, education, health, environment, microcredit, insurance, savings, targeting, political interventions like giving information to voters. There's just it covers the whole gamut of ideas that have been brought to the challenge of fighting poverty. Given this diversity of both areas and people, we do not want to have a specific ideological agenda. We don't come with any ideological agenda that's or that this is the policy you need to do, and this is what you need. This is how we carry out development. What we do share, and this is what I want to emphasize, we share a number of things. So let me go through them one. The first thing I think we share is a view that the details of program design matters. It's not education that will use. We all agree that education is a good thing, but that's not the interesting question. As the Deputy Chief Minister said, the kind of question we're interested in is how do we make a specific thing happen? It's not education, it's not even school meals. It's how do you deliver school meals under circumstances where there is weak governance and limited state capacity. That's the kind of question we're interested in, and we're interested in specific strategies. Is this way of implementing better? Should we give the money to the panchayat? Should we give it to some other institution? Should we create a new institution for it? Who should have the oversight over it? So we're interested in the details. So the first conviction we come from is this idea that details matter, and in particular implementation and delivery is central to this program. It's easy to conceive a program in your office which looks great, but it's hard to make it work. And we are interested in the program not just at the conceptual level, but at the level of design detail, which includes how to make it work. That's I think, our first principle. Second principle, we're all interested, while we're interested in generalizable principles, the ideas that can be used in many places at the same time, we recognize the importance of adjusting the lessons to the specificity of the circumstances. That there is no such thing as a program which is sort of just brought in and dropped in every time. Even deworming, which is a very simple program, you have to think through who's going to deliver the deworming drugs, who, at what time, under what conditions. And each of these things matter, and we take that very seriously. And most, perhaps definitively, we share a view that or methodological view of how to do good evaluations. We believe in the methodology of randomized evaluations, which both Gyan and Iqbal explained before, so I won't explain. And we believe in very careful measurement. If you had to ask, our biggest single commitment is to very careful, very detailed measurement and to do randomized evaluation. That's our commitment. That's a commitment to doing things well, not a commitment to a particular idea, a particular ideology, a particular view of development. In all of those other dimensions, in a sense, we are free, and we don't come with the baggage of saying that, you know, this idea cannot be true because it's against the common wisdom of X or Y. If you feel that your wisdom as implementers is that this is how we should do the program, we take that very seriously. That's our starting premise, is that there is a lot of knowledge which may not be consistent with the standard existing received view in economics, but it could be true. And you have to try many things and to find a good idea by carefully evaluating it. That's our central credo. So what I wanted to do in the rest of my time is just to illustrate some of these points by going through some of the studies that will be discussed over this day, and just to bring out that, you know, how each of these studies represents some ways these general principles. So first one, I think, which is I think already has been described, is the deworming idea. So deworming is, of course, an extremely basic idea. There's nothing subtle about it. You know, children have worms in their intestines, that they should get medicine. That I don't think anybody needed real persuasion on. What I think is what has, I think, changed our view of it is the realization that deworming turns out to be an extraordinarily cost-effective way of getting children to spend a few extra days in school. The children's schooling, this is not just for the health, the schooling is seriously affected, and it's an extraordinarily cheap way to improve schooling. That idea was not an idea we would have thought of, and in that sense, it came out of the standard accepted premises of how we thought of deworming as a health intervention. Turns out that this had a huge, of all the things we've seen in terms of improving child attendance in school, this happens to be the cheapest. So this was not an idea. This transfer from, in a sense, health to education, from deworming as an educational intervention, was a thought that we never had. And I think we would not have had if we just stuck to the frame of thinking about it as, you know, this is health, therefore it should affect health. We had it because we wanted to try it out, because we went to the field and said, let's try it and see what happens. And then you learn things you didn't expect. In the same vein, the effect, you know, Rachel and Nilima talked about the effect of giving a kilo of dal as a reward to parents who immunize their children. The fact that this intervention would increase full immunization rates in this area of Rajasthan from 17% to 37%, I don't think anybody expected. We talked to lots of experts in the area, and there were two views. One view was that, you know, these people, if they are not getting immunized, it must be because the government is not supplying immunization. If they supplied it, people will take it. The other view was that if these people are not getting immunized, it's because they have deep religious beliefs, and therefore they're not going to take it one way or the other. The thing that we discovered is neither of these ways is true. people who did seem to respond massively to the offer of a kilo of a dal. That can't be, if they had deep beliefs that were at stake, they would not have responded just with a kilo of dal. On the other hand, it was not enough to just increase supply. The Seva Mandir made sure that immunization was available in every village on a predictable day of the month. We measured how predictable it was. It was extraordinarily predictable. So you could always go there and get it, but that was not enough. So it is not enough to supply. And on the other hand, people do not have such deep-seated beliefs. And that's another thing that I think we started from the basic economics of it, we would have never guessed. And I think this fact that small gifts make people do many things that are good for their health, and small prices prevent people from doing good things. So if the price, even if you charge like a very small amount, 2 rupees for a drug, people don't take it. But if it's free, they take it. And those things have large consequences for health. This general message has emerged from a number of studies from across the world. We found the same pattern, which is a small gift makes people do things and a small price discourages them. This is a pattern that's emerged from many studies. This went against the basic grain of a lot of economics that even I would have believed a few years ago. So it's not. The third one I want to mention is the study on voting that Rohini and Anjali will talk about. In this study, the study, what it did was it looked at a very, very low-key campaign. It was carried by an NGO in UP during the UP 2007 elections, the state elections. The campaign, all it did was it told people, look, don't vote on caste, vote on development issues. They did not say do this or do that, vote for this party or that party. They just said don't vote on caste. So this is a very, very low-key campaign because you can't, it's not that they're telling them that this guy is corrupt or this guy is that. It was just saying don't vote on caste. Just think about it. Vote for development issues. Turned out that changed the probability you vote for your own caste party by 10 percentage points. So from 70% to 60% it went down. So you were 10% less likely to vote for your own caste party. This kind of massive effect, again, we didn't expect it. We would not have looked at it if we didn't have this view that we should experiment, we should find out. Similarly, there was a lot of views when we discussed the possibility of giving out information to voters. Tell them who's been going to their ration committee meetings, which legislators in Delhi have been going to ration committee meetings. This was done during the Delhi state elections, and the newspaper Hindustan printed report cards as SNS, Anjali's organization, had prepared, showing who had gone to their meetings, who had spent money how. And the basic view was this is not going to matter. People can't understand information. These are poor people in slums. They're not going to read this information. Turned out not true. They read the information, they understand the information, they compare people. If you put 2 people on the newspaper and Mr. A is better than Mr. B, Mr. A gets the votes. So what we did was we put Mr. A, who's the incumbent in constituency A, with Mr. B, who's the incumbent in constituency B. If Mr. A shows up in the ration committee meeting less than Mr. B, then Mr. A gets less votes. So people are very, very able to understand and interpret information. This was, again, a view that many people said that what's the point of giving information? Nobody reads, people are illiterate, they won't think about it. But in fact, they thought about the information, they thought about it in a very sophisticated way. That's something that's actually very, very impressive. So this is all to bring the point that, in a sense, you get surprises. The beauty of this approach is, to us, is that you can learn. You don't start with a premise. You start with the view that there are interesting innovations to be made, and when you try them, interesting things happen. A different point, which I think is also is again. The first point I started by making, which is that you need to know details of the program implementation matter. Thinking about exactly what you're trying to do matters. I think this is well illustrated by another program. This is a program that is run by Pratham. Sanjay is here from Pratham. Their Read India program, which is an educational program, starts from a very fundamental but completely often ignored insight, which is that people are sitting in classrooms in class 3 or 4 who have actually not learned what they should have learned in class 1. So once you're in class 4 and you've not learned in class 1, you're hopeless. Because nobody paying attention to you, curriculum keeps going. So you are just sitting there wondering what am I doing here? And then eventually you drop out. So this is a very simple problem, because it's a problem that, you know, is a matter of just identifying who these people are. These people can learn. These people, what are these evaluations of, we've done this program, evaluation repeatedly. We did it in Gujarat, Maharashtra, Uttar Pradesh, and now in Bihar. We did each of them had the same pattern, which is an evaluation of an intervention where these children were given some extra tutoring. The weaker children were given some extra tutoring by typically someone who is a volunteer, who doesn't necessarily have even a college degree, usually they're high school graduates. Giving them extra tutoring had a massive effect on their learning levels. The fact that you could get that sized effects on learning levels with very minimal investment came out of an insight of thinking about the details of what's the problem. What's the problem is these guys actually they just somehow missed something in class 1. And once they missed that, they were not paying attention. Nobody goes back to them and says, well, you can't read, you're in class 3, you can't read even letters, let me teach you. So they're just ignored throughout the system. Once you recognize that one fact, then you can build a program that addresses that and solves the problem. And I think ours repeatedly, finally the one we just did in Betia in Bihar, the summer camp intervention, all of them have a consistent result, which is that children are extremely willing to learn if you pay them the right attention, that you have to focus on what they need and do it. And once you do it, it's the methodology of that the Pratham has developed is a very specific methodology of identifying children and then helping them. And that methodology has enormously powerful effects. Again, this goes to the point I was making about details mattering, that you need to not think of, I'm going to teach this great pedagogy. It has to be, the pedagogy has to be deliverable by the right people. So it has to be simple enough that it will be delivered by volunteers, high school students. It has to be a pedagogy that addresses a need, which is the need of the children who are fallen behind. If you combine those things, you get big effects. And then there are so many education interventions and evaluated all over the world which don't have any effects. And you have to wonder why. I think one of the reasons I think we have learned is this attention to detail matters. That Pratham has that mindset, and that mindset is hugely important, and that influences the way, changes the way things. For going even further on this question of delivery, one of the studies that Rachel mentioned is the study on iron fortification. So iron fortification for anemia, India has the highest. India, Bangladesh have the highest anemia levels in the world. Basically, this is the anemia capital of the universe. Unfortunately. Iron fortification has been suggested for a long time. Giving iron pills has been suggested for a long time. Iron pills are impossible to deliver. Essentially, nobody ends up taking those pills, including pregnant women. People have failed over and over. The fortification of flour works, but again, it's a very, very difficult thing to implement. One thing we learned was that yes, you can make it work, but it is hard to keep it going. That's a lesson of the study, was that yes, you can make it work. When it works, anemia levels change, people get more energetic, they get less tired. But then it's hard to keep it going because, you know, they have to remember they put the iron into the flour. Because they don't buy flour in the market, you cannot do it in a centralized way. In Bihar, most people eat rice and you cannot fortify rice. So the delivery challenge and how, the idea is known, but the delivery is crucial. And one idea that now I think we are very keen to try, in particular in Bihar, is the idea of double fortified salt. And we want to, in other words, we want to continue the experiment. There's a very recent technological innovation which allows salt to be used as a way of delivering iron. Everybody buys salt. Salt has typically been iodized in India. In addition to that, you can add iron to it. Turns out that adding stable iron, the technology is recently been developed, that's going to That's a very, very effective way of delivering iron, because everybody buys salt. You just make it available to the poor, maybe we are available free. If they can buy salt and take the salt, that's going to give them enough iron. And so this idea, we are very keen to take this idea forward. We're very keen to take it forward in Bihar, because it's a rice eating area. This is where the biggest challenges are in delivering iron. So we are very keen to take it forward. It makes the point that it's not enough to have the idea. Everybody knows iron would be a good thing. We need to find delivery mechanisms, and we need to find credible delivery mechanisms that can be made to work. And we're very interested in taking this forward. Finally, let me say about a project that I'm particularly proud of, and I'm very proud to have Neena Singh here from the Rajasthan Police. This is a project of police reform. It's an area where we were told nothing can be changed. The police has a very complicated system. It's all very political, this, that, and the other. And I think it was very important to have the view that no, within each system there's lots of slack, things can be done. If you are creative enough, you can do it. And I think we were, of course, extraordinarily fortunate to have Neena working with us, because she's extraordinarily creative. But in the end, we were able to evaluate a whole bunch of things. She will describe the study, but there were many different innovations in the police way the lives of the police and their training was carried out, and number of them actually had an impact on how the police performed and how police were perceived. So we learned that. This is something that I think illustrates a very important point, which is that I think our sort of basic credo, as I said, is that there is lots possible, that there's lots of innovation available, even within systems that look very, very old and very, very ossified. There are lots of innovation possible. Innovation is easier than we think if we try to do it. And that lesson, I think, was very well brought about by this study. The study just, I think, changed my view of how you can work with the government bureaucracy, and how, if they want to be creative, they can be creative. Lots of change is possible, and that I think is exciting. So let me say to end, one consequence of the way we work, which is we want to know the details. We collect data very carefully. We spend lots of time. You want to do an intervention, randomized evaluation, you do the intervention today, you measure it in 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. Is that we don't come in, give advice and leave. We have to be there for years. I started working with Seva Mandir in 1996, and I'm still working with them. So it's been, and my view of all these things is we are in the business of building very long-term partnerships. That's why the way we function is to have what we would, for us it's ideal to come in with a mindset that we're going to be here for a long time. We build an office in the area, we have staff who are there. Our idea is that we want to become full-time partners. We want to be there to deliver on all the margins. We want to be at the beginning of the projects. We have some knowledge from the rest of the world. We have some knowledge from the rest of India. We want to bring it into the conversation about program design. We want to be, if you want us to be in that conversation. We want to evaluate the programs. We want to see if they have impact, when they need an impact. Evaluation, sometimes we know that these things work, so we don't need necessarily an evaluation, but many place things we do. We want to be a part of the scale up. We now have a team, both Gyan and Iqbal being here represent that aspect of JPAL, people who have a lot of experience in implementation and who want to help take good ideas that have been proved to be successful and now help those ideas to become, things that we evaluated, things where the results look good, to now to take them to scale, to think of ways in which these ideas can be implemented on a state level or even a national level. And so we have a very strong commitment to that, and we want to more generally be here for the broader policy interaction, to have conversations on what's the next step, how do we package this with other things. We want to be therefore, all of those things, we are very, very grateful to have been invited, to use an American expression, to the table. We are now, we feel that we have given a chance to explain ourselves. Hopefully we will do a good enough job to convince some of you that we are worth carrying on the conversation with, and we will be delighted if we get a chance to work more in Bihar. Thank you very much.